Egypt's Suez Canal recorded its highest monthly revenue in April 2022, reaping $629 million, with 1,929 ships passing through the canal. Major General Osama Rabia, head of the Suez Canal Authority, announced that there was a 6.3% rise in the number of ships in comparison with the previous year, in addition to 13.6% higher monthly revenue than in April 2021. The number of oil tankers, liquefied natural gas tankers and container carriers increased respectively by 25.8%, 12% and 9% in April versus a year ago. Rabia highlighted that recently the increase in oil and gas shipments from the Gulf to Europe through the Suez Canal has increased. Inaugurated in 2015 by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the 72-kilometer new Suez Canal creates a shortcut for ships traveling between Europe and Asia and minimizes waiting time for transiting ships. The expansion is expected to increase Suez Canal revenues to $13.226 billion in 2023. Internationally, Rabia has witnessed the signing of a memorandum of understanding with a Greek company to support ways of joint cooperation in the fields of maritime transport. The MOU stipulates a strategic partnership contract between Egypt and Greece in the field of maritime transport through the establishment of a joint subsidiary company that facilitates international trade, export and import operations of goods to and from Egypt by owning, operating and managing a group of ships and carriers. The fields of work are also expanding according to the company's objectives to work on developing the Egyptian maritime fleet, enhancing its role in the maritime transport sector, in addition to maximizing the benefit of the promising opportunities offered by the partnership in the field of exchanging experiences, providing job opportunities and other mutual benefits for both sides. The authority affirmed its readiness to provide all means of support, facilitate procedures and overcome obstacles that would convert the Memorandum of Understanding into a tangible reality, indicating in this regard that a joint working group from both sides would cooperate during the coming period to prepare feasibility studies and complete the technical and financial studies necessary for the project. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, continuing my discussion with my distinguished guests. Now, Mr. Platten, as we've heard in the report, there's a lot of demand on oil and liquefied natural gas, especially now to Europe, with a huge emphasis on the need for gas and energy resources. How does that change the shipping activity and the shipping strategies of different companies, and what sort of role does the Suez Canal play in such a critical time?
I think you'll see with what's going on in Ukraine and the sanctions that have been put in place is there's a shift away from gas from Russia. So people are having to look for alternative supplies. Where those supplies are located means it's going to be much more traffic, I should imagine, so for the Suez Canal over the coming months and years indeed. So once again, the Suez Canal is going to prove how strategic it is in order to solve these problems and challenges in terms of keeping energy supplied to European countries. So you can see it only to be expanded over the next few months. And we saw already from the report there, there's been a massive increase in trade. That was last year, and this year is going to be even more, I'm sure.
Well, if we're looking at the day-to-day sort of challenges that the Chamber actually faces with trying to deal and coordinate between different companies and different routes and ports, how did that develop or change over the past few years with all the political challenges, be it a change in an administration here or there, or a global pandemic? How does that change?
I think and Mr. Poulsen highlighted it, the levels of cooperation that we've developed over the last few years have been unparalleled in my experience within this industry. And that's something I'm actually immensely proud of, that we came together. Shipping is a global industry. Shipping is very resilient. We are solution finders we take a challenge and we find a way round that to seize the opportunity and to keep goods flowing. I think there was one Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization said without shipping, half the world would starve and the other half would freeze. And that's very much the case. So shipping will always find a way. But yes, we're very conscious of the changing, sort of shifting geopolitical plates. We all always make the case for global shipping. We'll always make the case for free trade as well, because we know that trade lifts people out of poverty. And we have concerns about some economies becoming more protectionist in their manner. That's something we will continue to make the arguments to say, actually, by having trade, having shipping, and this is where Suez Canal forms such an important part. It actually, does us all good. We all lifts us all out of, out of those traps which we could fall into, and we know protectionism leads to all sorts of negative economic consequences. So something we're very conscious of and we're very aware of, particularly as we emerge from the pandemic. And we look at the supply chains and we look at all the other problems facing us. So that's something that we at the ICS make, not just at the IMO, but also at the World Trade Organization, lots of other bodies as well, that we need to constantly bang that drum for trade and what shipping and the good that shipping can do to facilitate that.
Yes. Well, as soon really as President Sisi assumed office, one of his first tasks on the agenda was working on the development of the Suez Canal, and we did it in a record time, really, such a fast pace. And it's really a strategy. It's the opposite of being a protectionist in terms of the Suez Canal. Now, so there's a serious political will behind the desire to develop the Suez Canal. Now, as the International Chamber of Shipping, and you see this serious political will, what sort of work comes into the frame? Is it a work between the Chamber and the government, the public sector? Is it work between NGOs, the international and Egyptian shipping companies? How do you actually maximize on a serious will to work and fulfill a potential of an integral shipping route?
Well, I think our membership, as I said before, is made up of ship owners associations. I mean, we claim to represent about 80% of the world fleet through our membership. So that is really our, if I can put it that way, our core business, you could say. But we act also because we are, I don't want to flatter myself too much, but I think we're a credible organization. And I think a lot of governments, as I said also before at IMO, come to us and seek our views to get a sense of what the industry feels. And we have, on many occasions, built a compromise solution or helped bring about a compromise. I mean, just one example is when the introduction of low sulfur, 0.5% sulfur in fuel was introduced in January 2020. In the lead up to that period, there was a huge amount of debate. You know, some countries didn't want it, and some wanted it, and some ship owners didn't want it, and they wanted to delay it, and there were all these practical problems, and there was doom and gloom, and the forecast was that there was going to be anarchy on the oceans of the world. Well, actually, it didn't happen. We were very much behind the compromise. That what we said was, we want a date. As an industry, you just give us a date and we'll sort it out. The date should either be 2020 or 2025. We would have preferred 2025, but you tell us, you IMO tell us what it should be. And in the end they said it's going to be January 2020, so it's fine. Everybody got on with it, and the oil companies, produced the fuel mix that the industry then needed, and it happened. The changeover happened. Yes. Rather like when the millennium, we went from one to the other, people were forecasting the end of the world with computers crashing. It didn't happen. There were some problems, of course, but they were not major. So we do, we're many things to many people, but to many organizations, but our core business, as I said, is to represent ship owners and the interests of ship owners.
Yes. Well, the ship owners, I mean, one of the main sort of big achievements for the development of the Suez Canal are the economic zones, the international economic zones. Now, as the companies, the ship and boat owners, do they see these economic zones and think, okay, maybe we should go invest there, or should we coordinate and cooperate with Egyptian boat owners and shipping companies to develop work there, offer the services, really turn it into a hub instead of the Suez Canal just being a waterway? How do they view the Suez Canal economic zone, and what should we actually do to help fulfill the potential of these zones?
Well, I think, as the saying goes, the jury is still out. There have been some successes, but I would say it hasn't been as successful yet as it should have been, and this is why I said earlier in the interview, what seems to me the way to do it is to try and have rules and regulations within this, within these zones that are user-friendly and simple. Because if you do that, I think this will become a magnet. Because I mean, the location is just so obvious. And whether you join a local partner or not, that of course it depends also on the laws of the land. I mean. In many countries, I mean, a place like, for example, Singapore, again, there's no such requirement. You do not need any local partners. Provided you comply with very simple rules and regulations, you can open an activity, be it a logistics company, a ship owning company, an agency, or whatever, factory. You can just go in and do it. And in certain core industries, there are sort of goodies, incentives that the government provides to attract a certain segment in. And that's something that the government of Egypt could also consider, is try and focus on all the services that you could have in the canal zone. What are the ones we really want? And then make those attractive in terms of incentives and reduction of red tape.
Yes. Well, Egypt is overlooking two seas, the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, and we're not just talking about the Red Sea, which has the Suez Canal, Hurghada, Sharm el-Sheikh, the Ain al-Sukhna port. We're also talking about the Alexandria sort of port overlooking the Mediterranean. Now, the development work taking place there, really trying to maximize on all the natural assets Egypt has. How do you view the development taking place there, and what can we do to push it even further?
I think we view the development very positively indeed. You know, I think it's great to see that. Great to see, you know, the potential needs to be realised, and as Mr. Poulsen said, there's, you know, perhaps some things that can be put in place to help facilitate that. And, you know, and I think that they absolutely, completely agree with that. But you can see the massive potential of this country in terms of its maritime development and the development of a maritime hub. And you know, who's to say it can't be the Singapore of the 21st century as we go forward in terms of the real potential that it has.
Yes. Well, are the challenges or the goals that need to be achieved by a port such as the Alexandria port different than the ones that need to be realized by the Suez Canal? Is it a different sort of goal for one port for the Alexandria port as opposed to the Suez Canal? Is it a different sort of challenge?
Well, I think the Suez Canal is there as a strategic waterway, and it can then seize the opportunities that being such a strategic place can bring. A port is going to want to attract trade into the port, and that's going to be something it's a different sort of strategic outlook and a strategic goal, and that's why we're so pleased to be here to have discussions. Tomorrow we're meeting with the Suez Canal Authority. We're going to be signing a memorandum of understanding which will cement that relationship between the sort of the private ship owner, International Chamber of Shipping, and the Suez Canal, so we can work on areas of cooperation, be they economic, strategic, safety, the environment, all these different things which we've touched upon tonight. So, and we're very much looking forward to doing that.
It is sort of leveraging the Suez Canal, using it as a lever to create an infrastructure with related services around it.
Yes.
And the development of these Red Sea and Mediterranean ports that you talk about, of course, in a way is part and parcel of all that, of a much bigger picture.
Yes. Well, how long would it take, I mean, from signing memorandums of understanding to actually seeing it on the ground, fulfilling these agreements and the promises? How long would that usually take?
That's crystal ball stuff. I don't know. But I mean, if the will is there, it should be pretty quick. It should be pretty quick. But that's quite hard to predict. I mean, we see ourselves partly as a facilitator and as someone who can who can help this process because of the breadth of our membership and our influence, etc.
Yes.
But as to how it, you know, signing an MOU is the easy part, as you're implying.
Yes.
I mean, the hard part is making it happen.
Yes.
And we're hoping to build a bigger delegation in October, made up of a lot of different industry players to sort of help them see the potential that can be here.
And when you sign these memorandums of understanding, what are the main things that you would want to achieve? Are we talking about sustainability, sustainable development, environmentally friendly industries, or are we talking about safeguarding and making sure that all the boat owners, all the shipping companies are actually having their work being cut out for them for the foreseeable future?
I think what we found during the pandemic was that actually speaking to each other, cooperating with each other, working together to solve problems is the way forward. And I think part of what an MOU does. It enhances levels of cooperation, and so we consult each other, so there's no secrets or surprises. And that's so important when you're forward planning. So to me, that's the critical part of the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, is to build those relationships so that we can build that trust and that cooperation, which actually is to the benefit of everybody.
I mean, certainly the sustainable energy challenge that is before us. I mean, Egypt with these solar, one of the world's largest, I think it is the world's largest solar energy plants. I mean, that's just one example. And you know, to extract and export oil is fine, but that isn't the future. The future is in these sustainables, and I would say that in the whole clean fuels picture, Egypt sits in a very, very interesting position.
Do you feel that Egypt is seriously at a very good position in terms of that regard, renewable energy? Because we are hosting the COP27 in November in Sharm el-Sheikh, and we're really working on having all the sort of renewable clean energy plants all over the country. Achieving this 2030 goal, how feasible do you think it is, and the pace that we're going with right now?
From everything I read and hear, and I'm not familiar with the detail, but from everything I read and heard, it looks extremely promising.
And actually, you mentioned COP27.
Yes.
We had a major conference at COP26, Shaping the Future of Shipping. And we're having a summit in London on the 21st of June, and we're very much hoping a high-level delegation from Egypt and the Suez Canal will be able to attend that summit so we can discuss what is the future in terms of decarbonisation and the sustainability of our industry, a real key in advance of COP27, and I'm sure we'll be here at COP27 as well to further the case for shipping.
Yes, hopefully so. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it from my very distinguished guest, the potential that the shipping industry here in Egypt, be it in Alexandria or the Suez Canal, the potential is huge, but still a lot of work also needs to be done. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank my very distinguished guest, Mr. Esben Poulsen, the chairman of the International Chamber of Shipping. I'd also like to thank Mr. Platten, the Secretary General of the International Chamber of Shipping. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. And ladies and gentlemen, also I'd like to thank Engineer Dr. Shirin Nagar, who has been an integral reason why my distinguished guests are here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all for this edition of the Daily Debate. Stay tuned for more coming up on Night International. I'm Henny Saif. Thank you for joining us.